All right. All right. Now we recording. Holy smokes. Sometimes you make a mistake, you just gotta laugh.
Just gotta laugh.
Just
at
gotta
it.
laugh. Ain't nothing you can do
Laugh
about
at
it. It's okay.
It's okay.
What's up, Sohé? How you doing?
Good.
For the first
How are
time.
you? We back again for the first
Back
time.
again for the first time. Man, let me tell you, me and Sohé been having a great conversation for the last 20 minutes. It wasn't recorded. We're going to have to put that somewhere else. It was a great warm-up for what we was doing. How you doing, Sohé? Got Sohé Galbreath in the building with us today. She's back with us. It's Studio Noize. Your boy Jay Barber, if you ain't know, the voice of Black Art, coming at you with a super special episode today. Again, it's like remembering what I say. It's like deja vu.
But you don't have to remember. My girl said you ain't got to remember the truth.
We going for it today, yo. That's what's up. So we got Sohé Galbreath with us, and your boy Jay Barber. I've been doing a lot of different stuff, particularly as my business has been getting, doing all the things. Y'all seen the boy out there doing TED Talks, all kinds of stuff this year. Mm-hmm. So I was like, let me get myself together. It's launching the Black Baby Project this summer, and a whole bunch of other stuff go along with that. And so I set myself up at LLC, but it also made me think about how I'm organizing myself, how I'm preparing myself to have to do what we all have to do. Every single American has to file them taxes. I know I lost half the audience already just mentioning the word taxes, but don't worry about it. This is what we talk about. You come into the Noize. We're trying to make it easy for you. And the tax expert. and Sohé Galbreath with Sohé Solutions out here to help you with all your tax preparation needs if you need it for artists and stuff. But let me let her tell you. Go ahead, Sohé. Tell them about yourself.
So my name is Sohé Galbreath of Sohé Solutions, and my background is engineering and finance. Worked in logistics and engineering for 12 years. And decided that I was underpaid, underappreciated, and overworked. And I had a friend ask me, what do you already find yourself doing for people that you would continue to do if you never got paid? I am the daughter of a serial entrepreneur. She has owned clothing boutique. She's a radio disc jockey. Wow. She's club promoter, band promoter, all the things. Yeah. And probably since I was 14, I was helping with income tax returns and figuring out break-even points. So she could promote the heck out of a concert. She's like, how much should I charge for tickets? And I've always loved math, always loved numbers. Yeah. Ended up marrying a visual artist and found that he had a lot of the same needs that she had. Mm-hmm. And Sohé Solutions was born from there. So basically taking my love of logistics, numbers, finance, and actually working with people I love. So I like to say that artists are my rock stars.
There you go. Artists are the rock stars, and she's helping us out with all our needs. Because it's a specific need, because we're out here as artists. We're basically freelancers, right? Out here producing our products, trying to sell it to people, doing shows. We're traveling. We're framing stuff up. We're spending money on materials.
All the things.
We're getting money. Hopefully all y'all, what I'm saying, your boy throw one up in the air. Make sure y'all getting money out here.
Get something.
Get something for it, for your artworks. But all of that stuff, it is, Uncle Sam call it income. That's what they call it. And so Uncle Sam want to make sure they get their cut of whatever that you got going on. And all the little commissions that you done, the little $200 you do somebody dog, yo, that counts as income. Uncle Sam want a piece of that. And it's important to keep track of it. We're going to talk about that kind of stuff later. And we're going to talk about the Youth Artist Program. We're going to talk about Articulate. Artists call out for Articulate. Everybody out there looking for a show to get into.
It's the one.
It's the one. Listen to the episode. That was the first time she was on the Noize. She is an alumni of the Noize, for sure. Family, for sure. And
3-time graduate.
Yes. Yes. And so as we get into this, what should artists be doing to prepare? Because that's the first thing. All the deadlines have come and gone for this year. Well, maybe not. You can tell us a little bit about that. But if you already missed it, you got to start thinking about next year already, because hopefully, fingers crossed, next year coming for you.
It's coming.
It's coming for you. What's the deadlines that people should know and really keep track of?
So March 15th is the filing deadline for S Corps and partnerships. April 15th is the deadline for individual personal tax returns and also for C Corps. May 15th is the filing deadline for nonprofits. And then the IRS, you can ask for an extension. I give you 6 more months. So it starts all over again with September 15th, October 15th, and November 15th from the deadlines first mentioned.
There you go. Make sure you keep track of this. I feel it in the air because I felt it at the same time when I was looking into the taxes. I'm starting to lose the audience already. The people ready to check out and stop. They want to turn and start listening to the read or something. Don't listen to the read. This is important stuff, especially if you're an artist. You're thinking about being an artist. You are operating as an artist. You got to make sure that you get your stuff together. We're not operating no business out here on the street. You know what I'm saying? Selling stuff out your trunk. Like you're doing stuff official. You want to make sure that you keep track of this. And there's benefits.
Yes.
Make sure you keep track of all this too. And so what's the first thing that you tell people, artists that sit down with you, that they need to start thinking about, need to start preparing?
Start tracking things now. So not to wait until tax season, not to wait until, oh, it's almost April 15th. Let me get all my stuff together from last year.
Yeah, what I did in November. You try to remember?
It's real hard to remember stuff 12 to 15
Facebook.
Minutes later.
You gotta look at them Facebook reminders to see.
Like, what did I do? What was a year ago? But no, starting early. So just keeping track of all of your expenses. But one of the best ways to keep track, if you're not using QuickBooks or using one of the accounting platforms, is actually to have a separate bank account. So if you have a separate bank account or a separate credit card and all of those expenses are flowing through that, then you know where all of those expenses are and you can go back to them. You don't have to remember so much. But if you don't have one of those and you just keeping notes in your phone, or there's a handy dandy spreadsheet that I have that month by month give you all the things that you might spend money on, tracking stuff early, not waiting.
Yes, don't wait for it. And especially that bank account part is very important, because even if you're using Sohé's favorite, PayPal,
last conversation.
She did love her some PayPal, but
and that's not the truth. It's the opposite of the truth. That's a lie.
But even if you're using some sort of service, whether you take all your payments in Cash App, take all your payments in PayPal, take all your payments off this separate debit card that you have for your separate checking account, strictly for your business. Make sure you want to make sure you keep track of all of that stuff. Keep it separate. Don't pay your baby mama out of this account. Don't go do random stuff. Don't go to the club and start buying bottles. All right, and then
unless it's celebration after your very successful art show.
or
and that's part of your that's part of your shtick.
Or drowning your sorrows when you take all that artwork you framed up back and you ain't sell none of it. Now, I hope that's not your story, but
yes,
if it is, you got to keep track of that too.
Be careful.
Be careful. So why is it so important to keep track of those expenses?
For tax purposes. So you made money, and most likely the IRS knows the money you made. What they probably don't know is what you spent. And so you don't want them coming after you and saying, hey, we know that you made this amount of money, whether that's through 1099s or you taking payments through one of these online processors, because the government ultimately can have access to all of that information. And so they know what you made, but how do you offset what you made? And that's with the documentation of these very important expenses.
Are the processors legally bound to report those transactions? I believe so, right?
Yeah. It used to be that they didn't have to tell you how much you made or issue you a 1099-K until you had made at least $20,000 or had over 200 transactions. And beginning with last tax year, the rules were changed to where $600. So that's PayPal, that's a credit card processor, Square, Stripe, any of that. So at $600, they're letting you and the IRS know how much money you brought in.
Why do you hate PayPal so much?
And it's not a hating of PayPal. It's not my preference, not my preferred provider. And it was just because they kind of switched it up. At first, they were providing a service that I felt like people needed. And then they began behaving as a bank where they kind of want to hold your money up. And it's like, okay, well, y'all, need to make money. So I understand why there's this hold process, because the hold process allows you to make some interest off my money. That's exchange, right? You giving me a service and you making money off my money. Okay. Then it became that even as a nonprofit, even as someone moving money from my personal account into a business account or vice versa, or moving money between business accounts for legitimate transactions, they were still charging fees. And so now you're not providing a service anymore without these additional fees. It's like, you was already making money off the interest.
Yeah.
You already got us, we in here now, and you just continue to put in measures to make more money.
Right. That corporate greed starts sneaking in. They find a way to nickel and dime you to death.
Get it? That 3% they wanted. And I shouldn't have to pay to move my money from one account to another.
That's right. That's your money.
Yeah, it's mine. It's mine.
There you go. So that's some good points. Good points. We all hate PayPal now. I mean, no, not true. Not true.
No,
I'm just saying.
because if they want to come through and sponsor something, we might be friends again. We just got to make it work.
I know that's right. I know that's right, Joe. So what should we keep track of, yo? So I know we need to keep track of brushes, keep track of watercolors, keep track of all that.
All your
stuff.
materials.
But what else should we be making sure we keep track of?
Cell phone and internet
Oh,
are
Lord.
big.
Oh, yeah.
So you need cell phone and internet just to handle your business,
Oh,
your
yeah.
day to day.
Oh,
Like
no.
how do
There
you
you go.
how do you
Oh,
take
let me
pictures?
write this down.
How do you know what's going
Hold
on?
on, cell phone. Yeah.
Your cell
Wow, that's
phone
right.
and your internet. So those are two easy ones, right? Like we can always start there. But a lot of your inspiration as an artist. So books, movies, streaming services, all of those things should be included as well. Any office supplies, any printing of paper, or if you got a paid for Zoom account,
Oh, wow.
any of that we should make sure we're including too. If you subscribe to some people's Patreon, right, or whatever,
Oh,
just
wow.
because you want to make sure you're following and keeping up with the latest and greatest. Submission fees to art shows, admission to museums, travel that's directly related to your artistic expression, going to be inspired in various places at
Right.
various shows.
If you
all of
pay
that.
to enter the high. Or,
Yes,
you know what I'm
for
saying?
sure,
Anything like that?
for sure. Even if it is High Frequency Fridays, you should include that too. Even if it's that too.
Include that. Yes, for sure. Yeah, I got that Black American Portrait book.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? I got Token Rome book.
Those books get expensive. I
got
think you
that-
got a
I
Galbreath
that Galbreath
collection.
book.
But those should be
Yes.
tax deductible.
That's what's up. And so that's the kind of stuff you got to make sure you keep track of. All right, people, don't zone out on us. Okay, we give you a lot of tax details, but it's super important we keep track of this: expenses, your books, material, your cell phone, mileage. Right?
Mileage.
Talk about that
Mileage is
little
a
bit.
huge one. So all of that travel that you're doing to these various places, whether you're going to the bookstore, you're going to Spelman, or you're going to the museums, or you're going to the art supply store, or the local hardware store to get stuff.
Yeah. You're coming to 1802 Comedy
Yes,
Drive to the
Black Art in America.
Gallery.
All of that mileage is tax deductible, and it adds up really, really quickly. And so you might drive 50 miles round trip for an art exhibit, and that's a $35 expense.
Oh, wow.
But keeping track of the mileage is really important.
Yes, keep track of that mileage, baby. That's what I'm talking about. Again, prepared. So what do you suggest for people that don't have a habit of tracking this kind of stuff? Because a lot of artists, if you're just out there just working, I'm just out here making stuff. I like collaging. I like gluing. I don't like tracking. What do you suggest?
So there are a couple apps. MileIQ and Hurdler immediately come to mind. They'll help you track your mileage, but you do have to have it on, and you have to say, okay, this is business. I'm about to go do some business stuff, and it's tracking your mileage in the background for you. So at the end of the year, you get a great report that says you drove 18,465 miles, and you're like, oh, that's a $12,000 deduction. Like, that was awesome.
Yeah, that's all right.
Or you can also just keep a log in your notes. So you can say on Wednesday, May 10th, today I drove to Black Art in America. And how many miles was that from your house? And now I'm going to times it by 2, do some multiplication. And at the end of the year, you may have something really long and tedious, but you have it.
Yeah.
And it definitely will help you reduce your tax liability.
Yeah. I think that's one of the points we were making before about how much of the preparation is necessary. That you just have to have the information. You just have to have the miles. You just have to have an idea of where you're spending your money, the receipts for everything. Talk about receipts a little bit.
Yeah, so keeping those receipts is important. Having the receipts is important, but we also know we're in kind of this digital space. And so the downloading of receipts, or a lot of times you'll swipe your card and they'll say, would you like me to text or email this to you? You can have it emailed to you. You go to the post office and you're shipping off a beautiful piece of artwork that you just sold to somebody, and they can text you or email you your receipt. And having those things in a documented way, but it's not taking up a bunch of paper, or the receipts aren't starting to fade, or the thermal printing ain't starting to smear, whatever.
Rub off on your greasy fingertips when you're eating that Bojangles.
Yeah, so keep all of those receipts, but as much as you can, store those digitally or electronically. And so like when you purchase your flight on Delta, then Delta's going to email you the receipt and the confirmation, and so you have it. But just keeping track of those things in real time, and often you can go back and pull them together.
Yeah, shout out to all my procrastinators out there. We don't want y'all to feel left out. We hear y'all, we see y'all, but don't do it. Like you gotta at some point you gotta like put your foot down and say, today I'm gonna be not a businessman, a real businessman, and make sure that you're handling your business properly. And
Timely,
so if you can get it immediately, have a file on your computer for your receipts.
Yes.
You like have a separate little function, in your email, just have a little folder.
Receipt.
Move to receipts.
Yes.
So you make sure you keep track of all of it. If all of it's in the same place, when you go back and look for it, you're not digging through folders and pulling out your pants pockets and stuff like that, trying to hope you find some stuff.
Because most likely, if the IRS asks you for it, it's going to be about 3-4 years after the fact. It's not going to be immediately.
Yeah, and if somebody ever do ask you for it, you immediately going to have adrenaline rushing through your system and forget all the stuff that you're supposed to be doing. So just make sure you have everything in place. If we can find some way to stabilize your art practice, not just your art practice, but your art business practice.
Yes.
Make sure it's stabilized. Make sure you are doing everything properly. It becomes almost instinctual.
Yes.
In how you're doing it. Like you're just automatically
habit forming.
Automatically taking pictures, automatically filing stuff, automatically moving it, automatically tracking. It makes everything a lot easier by the time they come see somebody like you.
And I appreciate those people too. I appreciate them a lot.
I'm sure. Because what kind of problems can people run into when they don't keep track of stuff?
The biggest thing is that you probably end up overpaying in taxes. So if you're a good person trying to do the right thing, as most of us are, we're trying to do the right thing. We're not trying to get over. The IRS is one of those games where the house always wins. So what are you leaving out? Right? So if you're trying to do the right thing and you got, okay, well, I got this much. You might have 80% of it, and that's great. But that other 20%, you giving somebody money you shouldn't be giving them.
That's right.
Like, we need to keep as much of our money as possible.
That's right. It's like a little dance. It's like, I want to hold enough for you. I don't want to give you too much, though. I can be doing other stuff with that money.
Yeah, so if you're not tracking it and keeping good records, then most likely you paying more than what you should be paying.
All right, so we're talking about getting set up for success. Most people, when they are going to file taxes, are going to file as a sole proprietor. Am I right or wrong?
That's where they start.
That's where you start. And so you can't move into an LLC. How would an LLC be filed?
So an LLC is filed if it's an sole member LLC, an individual person who has an LLC. It's filed the same way. It's filed on a Schedule C on your 1040 personal income tax return. There's no difference. So the LLC is limiting your liability as a company, but it's not changing your taxation.
Oh, Lord.
It's the same.
Yeah,
it's the same.
But when we talk about what kind of liability could artists run into, like we're trying to do some stuff?
We talked about an example the first time.
Yeah,
but I mean, people in the U.S. like to litigate, right? Like we're a litigious people.
Yes.
And so, Jamal,
that's the American way.
that is their way. You could have been contracted, right, to finish a commission piece. And this man's like, I need you to do this commission of my beautiful wife. And marriage is really, really rocky, and I'm trying to save it. And then you do the piece, and it's horrible. And he says it's the reason why his marriage completely folded, and he's coming after all of your personal assets.
Oh, Lord.
So as an LLC, there would be some limited liability.
Lord, have mercy.
But again, that's a legal thing. And so what we really want to make sure is that we're not commingling personal business or personal things with business things.
Nah, I like that because we do not want that.
You don't want somebody to be able to come after all of your personal effects based on some business transaction.
Yeah, that's wild because he if you a sculptor and your sculpture fall over on somebody or something like that, like all that kind of stuff.
Or as you start curating shows and you invite artists in, and the artist can say you ruined my reputation and wasn't a good show and you misrepresented me and all of that.
Oh, Lord. Yeah, so there's something out there to be prepared for. Do you find that most artists need to be an LLC? Like, is it a certain dollar amount that you need to get to in order for it to really be of a concern to you?
I mean, I think it's good, right? You like start strong and stay strong. So it's not a bad idea. So like it's not like, oh, this is a bad thing. You just have to understand what it means.
Right.
And also just knowing that it doesn't just stop with you filing the LLC. You have to make sure that you're not commingling, again, the personal things and the business things, and you're keeping them separate, and you have a separate business account, you have a separate personal account, and you're not moving money haphazardly between the two. Like, that's just as important. But if and when time comes that the IRS is asking you some questions, having this separate entity makes it look like you're just that much more about your business. So you have it, it's separate, you know what's there, you know that all of my business activity is happening here under this umbrella. I set this umbrella up for a reason, it's there, it's doing what it's supposed to do, and it's being looked at differently. So everything that flows into and out of that bank account and tied to the LLC, that's business. But so even if I went to Kroger and I put stuff in that account, I had a little thing at my studio and I wanted to have some light bites for people. But this was definitely business because it came through this account. And the only things that I move through that account are business things.
Right. Make sure you remember that. Don't buy toys for your dog and all this kind of stuff unless the dog is part of the art.
Unless it's part of the prop and you was doing some artwork.
Yes, make sure we making sure real business. We talking about real business right now to make sure everything stay together. We want everybody to be free because, like you said, you can go to prison off this kind of stuff.
Yes.
Like if you're not like filing your taxes properly, because Uncle Sam gonna get days. That we know that for sure.
And you don't know when or how.
You don't know when or how they can come and get you. Like what you mentioned in our previous conversation. What's the statute of limitations on
if you don't file at all? There is no statute, right?
There's no
they
statute.
can come after you whenever. So if you owe the IRS money, like it doesn't go away. And it's not something that you can write off in bankruptcy. Like it is with you.
Yes. So we make sure.
And even in death, I mean, they could come after your estate. Like,
Lord.
Yeah, it's not.
Yes.
Yeah.
Don't let your mama and them have to deal with your foolishness and shenanigans. Like,
real
get your
time
stuff
is the
together.
best way. Real time is the best way.
Get your stuff together. So I hope everybody hold on with us. We're talking this good tax talk right now, but make sure you got to get your receipts. You got to keep track of your mileage. You want to make sure you having all the stuff set up properly as you're doing it. And so now we get all this stuff together. It's January 1.
Yeah.
It's time for you to get your flood of artists coming to you for your preparations. What do you want to make sure that people know about what forms to file if they're going to try to file them themselves? If you're real smart out there and you don't need Sohé help. you go at it alone. What kind of forms are they filing?
As a freelancer, the 1040 and the Schedule C. But honestly, with a lot of the online tax software, it'll walk you through it. I just don't find that they do a really good job with artists and small businesses.
Why not?
Artists are creative, and I don't think we have given enough attention or enough love to artists from a financial perspective, and so they're somewhat forgotten about. And so we'll talk about a small business, but we don't recognize that an artist and their artistry is also a small business. Again, we talk about research and development, right? Like we talked about all these R&D expenses. And if you go to a traditional tax preparer that's not used to working with artists or hasn't thought about it in that way, they're not thinking about your art books. I had one guy, he's a comic book, he illustrates, right, for major comic books. And he spends a lot of money on comic books. And he came to me and we started talking. I was like, I don't see any expenses for your comic books. He was like, oh, I've never written that off before. Like no one ever told him, like all those comic books that you read that are like part of your, not just inspiration, but that is how you know how to tell the story. Like it's necessary.
That's part of his job.
I had a video game designer this year, same thing. It was his first year with me and he was just like, my video games, I could write off my video games. Like you design video games for a living. Like that's what you do. Yeah. So that's a part of it. But I don't think just as society, we give enough credit and attention to that creative workforce. And so we don't think about it in that way.
I get that a lot because even as I'm saying this, I get the idea behind that because even if I'm teaching at Georgia State, a lot of the parents don't understand that the art is a job. Like it's not just you out having fun, like doing whatever. Like, yes, it is fun, but it is a lot of work to be an artist.
And thought.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot of thought that goes into your preparation for your shows, for your talks, for all the things. It's not just something that's like, oh, I just want to do whatever today. And I'm doing it without thought and intention. Yeah.
And so do you think it's better for people to go and find a tax preparer or to try to do it themselves? Like when do you know that?
I think you should always have somebody who's a professional in the space. And even if you're pretty good, I would just suggest you go to a trusted professional this year and then take what you learned this year and then wing it yourself for the next 3-4 years. And then maybe come back when something has changed or things have grown a bit. But I think always having that level of interaction and engagement with somebody who's closer to knowing if that's not what you do.
That's true. Because just like art,
Yes,
right?
I could draw it myself, Jamal. I could do that.
Exactly.
It's gonna look just as
Exactly.
I could
They're-
trace yours.
Yeah, they don't give you a lot of credit for the experience and the know-how and all the
Mhm.
little ins and outs and stuff that people you might not know, like to deduct your comic books if you're a comic book artist or something like that. And so that's where we need people to come and help you. So whenever if you even think you kind of need help, you need help.
Just go ahead and get some
Like
help.
go ahead and get it.
Or just be confirmed that you didn't need it, right? Like,
Yeah,
okay.
that's true. Yeah, I was right.
I've been right all along. But I will say that I don't know that I've ever looked at someone's tax return who did their tax return themselves and I didn't find something.
Mhm,
And that something is usually worth what you would have paid for preparation.
mhm. There you go. Make sure you're doing it. Oh, did we talk a little bit about the importance of not trying to hide your income?
Yeah.
Because this is super important that we, every little bit of money that you get and you put it in your pocket and you think it's all good, like it'll come back to you in some way or fashion. Tell us about that a little bit.
So with the rising cost of housing, right? Like whether you renting or whether you're trying to buy, you need documented income. And so if you're not documenting all of your income and showing this money coming in, that's a problem. You're selling yourself short. And even with the healthcare marketplace, like you need to show income in order to qualify for certain healthcare levels and to be able to get it, you have to actually file your taxes. So not filing your taxes or thinking, oh, I don't need to include all of my income, unless you have a whole lot of money and are able to operate just on a purely cash basis, at some point you're going to need that income documented. Of course, it's also the legal thing to do.
Yeah.
But let's go ahead and document the income and not wait until it becomes necessary.
That's right.
And a lot of times you'll come after the fact, be like, oh, I'm trying to buy a house next year. Let me get my taxes in order. You about 2 years too late. Like you 2 years out from being able to do the thing you want to do.
Yeah. Because they want to see that record. They want to see the numbers because it's got to justify whatever loan you're trying to get for your house. Even if you've rented an apartment, they want to see a certain amount of income to know that you can afford an apartment at that level. I don't want to say this.
How you said the first time?
Yeah. So, and you really want to make sure that you're documenting your income properly and don't try to fudge it, right? Because it doesn't you don't get any benefit from underreporting your income. And in fact, it could lead to major problems.
And I mean, the benefit is that you could end up paying less in taxes, right? We're not going to act like there's no benefit, but over-reporting or under-reporting can, lead you to jail.
Oh, she said it so lightly and nicely. But jail's not no fun thing.
It is what it is. It's not it's not nice. It's just the truth.
Nah, because they came after Wesley. They're gonna come after you too if they get a chance to. And so
they just came after Beyonce for almost $1 million.
They're coming after everybody. If B gotta play it, you gotta pay it. Last thing, anything that you want to make sure that people know right now, starting to get prepared to do for next year.
Start tracking. Just tracking all the information. And it's nothing we can get away from. So even when you're not putting money aside for taxes, you're basically taking an interest-free loan from the government. So as an artist, you have freelance income, right? Like you just making this money, somebody sends you a check and it's $4,000. But you owe taxes on that money. So if you have a job and you made $4,000, you're not going to get $4,000. They're going to take their cut. Similarly, you should be putting money aside and planning for that from a tax perspective and not waiting.
Absolutely. Don't wait, Joe. Don't wait. We get it all together. I'm going to get myself together. Everybody out here listening to this podcast, still, please hold on. Okay? We done went through a lot of tax details today, but it's super important. Make sure you're taking your notes. Make sure you're getting all your deductions at the end and then find yourself in a good situation for next year. Don't miss the deadlines. Don't have them coming after you because that old one, they ain't got no receipts from 01. They coming after you though. They want their money. That's all I'm talking about. So hey, more stuff to talk about with you. You're not just a tax preparator.
Preparator.
Yeah,
no,
you don't
I
just
ain't
do
that.
that kind of stuff. You do a lot of different stuff. Let's talk a little bit about your youth artist program.
Yeah. So some years ago, my husband George is a high school art teacher at Westlake High School. and grading AP portfolios and governor's honors portfolios, he noticed that there was a delta in the portfolios. And the delta wasn't talent, it was exposure. And he felt like his students weren't being exposed in the same way. And we found, consequently, artists on the South Side weren't being exposed in the same way. And so the idea was born to offer students experiences outside of the classroom. So how do we, the curriculum is fine, but the curriculum's only going to do so much. How do we give them experiences outside of the classroom that inform their artistry and adds to kind of the depth and breadth of what they're producing? So 8 times a year, we take the students outside of the classroom. A few times a year, we invite instructors from the artist community, real working artists, to engage with the students. So whether we're taking them to Spelman or to the High or hopefully Black Art in America, Hammond's House, but we're giving them experiences and showing them where they can see themselves. And so Peter Street Station is a great one, and they're always like, oh my goodness, or Zuccotti, they're like, oh, wow. Like you see that breadth of what artists are producing, and that it's possible in seeing themselves in that space. So even we did a couple field trips with Clayton County high schools, but we're just trying to get these Southside kids and give them something that's probably north of 20 and what they're not typically experiencing.
Absolutely. And I was a judge for the Governor's Honors Program one year, and there was a huge difference. And even in terms of how the teachers are preparing for it. It was like up north in a lot of the schools, Gwinnett and all these other places, they spend a lot of time preparing, like basically like grooming their students like year to year, specifically making certain artworks that you need to fit the portfolio requirements and stuff like that. And so you don't get a lot of that on the South Side, and it's mostly funding, and it's a lot of other issues, quote unquote.
And sometimes too, just in what the students want to produce. But we also have to celebrate those students in the same way. So whenever we've had end of year art exhibits, we don't put them in the hallway at the school. Like, we don't put their work up on easels, to showcase their work. We want to find a space where the students can see their work up on gallery walls. Like, that's what we want to have for them, and we want them to feel celebrated. And so just as you wouldn't have your all-star basketball team play in a dirt park, right? We don't want to give our students experiences that don't want them to elevate and to be somewhere else. But also, I feel like with these programs, they don't necessarily have our students in mind. And so when you look at the criteria and what they're looking for you to produce, it may not be with that Southside student in mind. But we know they can produce great artwork, and we want that artwork to come from within them. And so long as they feel good about it and they've been exposed, then we feel good too.
And it's not a talent thing, like you said. It's only opportunity and structure. How these programs are structured are not necessarily catered to the particular students. Once students see their work in a gallery setting, what do they say?
Oh, they feel good. Yeah? They feel real good to see their work up on a wall, to see their work framed, those things. And that's what we use the funding for. So we don't put up artwork that's not in a frame, like Matin ain't enough. And we want it to be on a gallery wall, and we want them to see it in that space and to be able to see themselves in that space. So not everybody's going to be an artist, but the artist should be celebrated just like we celebrate our other talents in our community.
What have been their favorite places to go to?
They love Castleberry Hill. Yeah. Like, as a destination, like, that is, there's so much for them to see. And so if we can start at Peter Street Station and go to City of Ink and end at Zuccotti, they get a breath, right? And then I think the liveliness of the community, and there are always good eats in the neighborhood. So that's always a favorite.
Yeah, students love eating. We know that for sure.
But that would probably be our favorite.
What's been your favorite event that you've held, like, out of all these years?
With the youth?
Yeah.
We took the students to Baton Rouge to their Festival of Lights one November.
Oh, nice.
And so we took 25 students. And it was a day trip, a really, really long day trip, but they really, really enjoyed themselves.
That's what's up, yo. Like that's the kind of stuff you needed. Because I grew up, middle of nowhere, North Carolina. You see no stuff. I ain't really go visit, like a real visit, not a school visit. School visits to museums are terrible. terrible. Like imagine like, we got like an hour and 10 minutes to walk through the entire high.
Right. That
Like,
ain't it.
no, you be
Immerse
running.
them in the experience.
Exactly.
Give them
Let 'em
all the
go.
experience.
Let them go. Because,
Mhm.
it's a lot of stuff. Even then, I kind of figured I was an artist because I wanted to stay.
Mhm.
Like, we just walking past this paint. It's like, no, like, do you see this?
Mhm. Can we
Like,
talk
yeah,
about
it's
it?
like,
Can we talk
gotta-
about
no,
it?
we got to stare at this for a little while. Like, and nobody wanted to stare at it with me. So that's how I knew it was different.
Mhm. And I also think hate to call anybody a non-art anything because everybody's a creative and an artist in their own right. But art kids going together for those experiences. It's a
Yeah.
different level of bonding and a different level of understanding they have amongst each other.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's a great program, by the way. I love it.
Thank
One
you.
day, Studio Noize will be a part of it. Talk to the kids or something.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Were
that
you I thought you judged one year. I thought you spoke to the
did
students
judge.
one
I
year
did.
at ZooCon.
Yes.
Yes.
I did. As a
Okay.
matter of fact,
We bring you back. Come on.
Nah, I'll come back, yo. I'll come back. I got mad time now. We got that and we got Articulate. Coming back up, if y'all don't know, go check the episode we did about Articulate and tell you how much I loved Articulate, how much it was really like a turning stone from turning post for me, just in terms of developing and taking myself seriously as an artist. It's funny we having this conversation about taxes and being serious, but to be serious about all levels of your practice is what I'm really getting at.
Mhm.
Like with this is that as artists, the more intentional and the more committed you are to what you're doing, as this is a thing.
Mhm.
This is not something you're doing on the weekends. This is not for fun. This is not because
It's real.
you just spending time, ain't got nothing else to do.
Mhm.
Like, no, this is something that can be very fulfilling, but can also be very lucrative for you if you approach it the right way, if you handle it the right way. Being an Articulate kind of taught me that, like just certain things that you need. You need to have a story. You need to be able to talk to people. You need contact information. You need a
Articulate.
website. You need all of this stuff to get it going. Tell us about the 11th annual Articulate coming up.
Yes, Articulate. We've been doing this since 2013. Love it, love it, love it. It's for local Atlanta emerging artists, Atlanta metro area. You don't have to be specific to the city of Atlanta. We typically select 30 to 35 artists. They keep 100% of what they sell. Last year, the artist sold about $75,000 worth of work. We have
Now that's way up now.
It is.
Yes,
The number has been
So,
growing.
it's
I
way up.
remember, I think the first year you were in it, the artist sold about 16,000
Yes.
that night. It was a good night. It was a good night. But the nights have gotten better.
Oh, yeah, a lot better, obviously.
And at the same time, we're trying to connect emerging artists with emerging collectors. So being a space for emerging collectors to come and get used to buying artwork and purchasing original artwork. And we usually have 800 to 1,000 people come out, and it's a good time.
And so last time I didn't get to make it. I was running around doing a whole bunch of stuff. But this year I make sure I'm making time for it. Is it still the multi-night setup that y'all had before?
We're going back to the single night, bringing everybody back into the space.
Okay, everybody's in the space.
At
One
the
time,
same
one
night.
hit. So artists sign up, they get their own little section of the wall.
Yeah, usually 10 to 12 feet of wall space.
Mhm.
We help them curate the space, but it is you and your space. You take your sales from the evening. Good drinks, good music.
Mhm.
Try to definitely add to the liveliness of it all.
Do you still suggest pricing for people?
We help the artists if they need it. But then we're also very cognizant of our audience. So at this point, we know our audience. So there are times when an artist may submit, we love their work, but based on the pricing of their work, we have to have conversations as to whether or not they're a good fit for Articulate.
Because this is all emerging collectors. Like a lot of first-time collectors. I met a lot of my still collectors now.
Because they grow with you. They stay
at
with you and
Articulate,
grow
yeah,
with you.
at
Yeah.
Articulate. And
That's the goal.
So, but it's not, I want to say it's particularly, it's not about a collector coming looking for a come up either. Like you're not up there trying to what I'm saying, fleece the artist that's here. No, we're trying to look for fair exchange, proper introductory price points.
Yeah.
I would say.
Yeah. No, I think that's a great introduction to original artwork.
Yeah. Who was the standouts for you last year that you really, really liked?
I don't like to do that.
Oh.
But I will say that every year the Galbreath collection has added work from Articulate
that.
artists. Like every year we do. And I won't tell you who I'm looking at, but it is certainly indicative of what we love. And seeing artists continue to progress beyond articulate that gives us a whole lot of pride and joy.
And what are you looking for? Like when an artist is looking to submit, what should they?
Artists working consistently. Like I want to check out your Instagram page, and I don't want to see one piece of artwork posted every 6 months. I don't want to see the same pieces of artwork that were shown at 4 or 5 different places. I want to see cohesive work where I can tell that it's you. It doesn't have to necessarily be thematic, but I want you to have a bit of a voice where I see the piece and I'm like, oh, that's a J. Barber piece. Like I know whose work that is. So the consistency of work, it looking like the artist, and just making sure that they're working. So even for us, like buying artwork, that's important to us. We want to see that you're working and you're going to stay with this and you respect it. Using good material. Yeah. We've seen good artists and the canvas is shaky or the paint look a little thin, right? So we want good quality, good craftsmanship, good work.
Right, and a lot of different styles, because even from the pictures last year, make sure y'all go to the what's the Articulate Instagram?
Articulate ATL.
Articulate ATL. Go to the Instagram account. You can see all the pictures and stuff from last year and all the other years, because y'all still
artist
y'all do
interviews,
a great job,
all the stuff.
Yeah, you do a great job of keeping up with the artists, because just like Studio Noize, when people come through, they become family. It's the same way with Articulate. Like
Definitely
you have people
family.
that do multiple years, like a lot of times. Kind of grow out of it, like eventually, like me and a bunch of other people. But I want to make sure you know that as an artist, whatever you do it. That's the first part, right? Do that first. Don't make artwork particularly for Articulate. I would say don't do that. But just make sure that you're committed to your practice and you have enough breath in the work. But don't be concerned about comparing your work to other people either, because the more unique your work is, probably the better off you'll be.
It'll stand out.
Yeah, and you had a lot of standout pieces at Articulate this year, and make sure I get there.
Yes,
this year to make sure I get
July
get some of that good stuff. What we looking at this year? Where you gonna be?
We are not sharing where we're gonna be at.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, surprise! Oh my goodness.
Yeah. We're working through the contractual details, and so until those are firm, but July,
just prepare. Just
July.
You
Be
get
ready
your arts
for
together.
July.
You just get your arts together.
Yeah.
Don't
And
worry
for the
about the other
artists,
stuff.
right? So the artist call is open through June 2nd.
And where can they go?
ArticulateATL.org.
There you go. That's it. That's the hookup right there. To make sure y'all go check it out. If you, like I said, check out the Instagram and see all the wonderful, wonderful work that y'all had at Articulate. Collectors, it's worth coming out. I'm just saying, get your tickets early though.
And get in early. Get in early. We have sold out the past few years. That happens, but make sure you get in early so you get the best look at the best work.
I'm proud of y'all.
Thank you.
Y'all been running this thing like pretty smooth for a long time. I'm excited.
Thank you
for everything that y'all been able to do over this time.
Thank you.
That's good stuff, yo. Good stuff. And so, any last words that you got for people as we close this thing out?
If you haven't yet, check out the Galbreath Collection book.
Oh, yes.
GalbreathCollection.com.
Check out episode 159.
159.
We talk all about it with
you.
George and Sohé together. So you can make sure you get one of those.
Yeah. But no, we're just continuing to try to be a part of this Atlanta art ecosystem. Love on it the way it's loved on us.
Dang, that's it. That's it right there. You can't say it no better than that. It's Sohé Galbreath right here. Sohé Solutions. Make sure y'all go check it out. It's the Noize.
Thank you.